One final tune-up before Kyler Murray's return. Yes, Dad Joke Friday. Let's roll.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. I am the host. I am Alex Clancy. That's me. No more dad jokes today. I promise. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Prize Picks. I love Prize Picks. The easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. So, should be an interesting matchup on Sunday. We're almost there. And I discussed this before. I had, a great time with Jeff Lloyd from Locked On Browns yesterday, that the season for the Cardinals starts in week 10, barring any sort of setback, Kyler Murray not coming back, whatever it is, things that are outliers to what most likely will happen. And this is still going to be a fascinating matchup. I was talking with Ross Jackson, our direct lead of Locked On, the NFL portion of the Locked On Podcast Network, and it's like, this may be the most fun I've had doing this podcast this season. Now, save them starting 7-0 2 years ago, and then that part was special. I was always still a little cognizant of, these same problems are happening. Record aside, the same problems, the same root of issues were still prevalent throughout games. They were just winning more games than they were losing. Now, this year, and it's not directly correlative towards the new regime being here. It's not that. It's like, you're starting to see how the sausage is made during a rebuild. And that's awesome. I nerd out about that stuff. Where you see players get better. You see Michael Wilson get better every week. You see Emari Demercado, who has missed practice the last 2 weeks, which I'll discuss in the next segment, get better. Things like that. Hollywood Brown still being pretty balanced as a wide receiver one, of the de facto wide receiver one the Cardinals have. Josh Dobbs keeping the Cardinals in games. The Cardinals being competitive, yes, not ideal that they're 1-7 and have statistically the lowest record in the NFL through 8 weeks, with Carolina having a bye, being a 1-6. But the possibilities and options are endless that I've discussed a lot. And that is intoxicating. And, I don't know, it's because Mercury's in Gatorade or whatever the hell people say about Mercury, or, the moons and the star, whatever that is. But I'm stoked for another week of Arizona Cardinals football, and it's going to be Clayton Tune calling the shots. I said last week, and I was right through about 3.5 quarters, that could be the game where the Cardinals are just out of contention for the entirety of the game. That hasn't happened yet. I know against San Francisco, it got away from them pretty quickly. They were down 14 at halftime, I think. But the rest of the games, the Cardinals have been in contention for at least 3/4 of the game, which sounds like, again, green ribbon, participation trophy thing to say. But this entire season, I preface this. Everydayers, you'll know this. If this is your first listen to Locked On Cardinals, thank you. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just search Locked On Arizona Cardinals, man. Hit that subscribe button, I said, and I prefaced a couple times this offseason, that I will be regurgitating the same phrases that will turn into cliches because I talk about them so much, and that's what's happening. Proof of concept. Being in contention. player-centric evaluation of which players are going to be integral parts for the future, namely the young players who are getting a lot of meaningful snaps without a whole lot of pressure to perform. It's worked out well for some, not worked out well for others, but we're starting to see who could be very important pieces for this team moving forward. And that's what this season's about. So I warned you. I know that I say proof of concept too much, and I say it because it's necessary. We're witnessing what this offense is going to look like and what the defensive schemes are going to be like and how defensive players prepare for games and how Nick Rallis gets these guys ready. And even though they've given up a lot of points and the Cardinals can't score even when the defense does turn the opposing offenses over because, Joshua Dobbs wasn't a good quarterback by dictionary definition, I feel like you'd be blind if you're watching these games saying, not seeing, oh, okay, yeah, I can kind of get this. You give Kazir White a little help in the middle of the field. You get a pass rusher, you get an interior defensive lineman, you get a corner. It's like, oh, yeah. And I know that's a lot. The Cardinals have a lot of picks. They're going to have a lot of cap space. So it happens overnight. A lot. Ask the 49ers. They, I believe, picked second overall. Well, I know that they did. They picked second overall in 2019. And I believe they made the Super Bowl that year after having, a 3-win record, or I think it was 4 wins because the Cardinals had 3. It happens very quickly. And this is obviously barring Kyler Murray coming in and do it like it. It's so close. We've waited so long to see Kyler Murray back on the field. It's been 11 months, 11 and a half, 11 months. He got hurt in December, so whatever. 10 and a half months, 11 and a half months, whatever it is. It's close. We're on the precipice, but it'll be very fun to watch this Arizona Cardinals team go into the dog pound with a 5th-round rookie who's never started an NFL game before. He had his first career snap on a fake punt that, worked out incredibly poorly. But you're going up against potentially the best, or arguably the best defense in the NFL in 2023. Myles Garrett, Defensive Player of the Year frontrunner, or should be. You've got Zadarius Smith. You've got Denzel Ward. This is just another test of the mettle of the Arizona Cardinals. And that, I called it a social psychology experiment. That's kind of what it is. There's some players banged up. It's not going to be easy for Clayton Tune, and I'll discuss, the injury report. A couple players didn't practice in back-to-back days, which, isn't ideal, obviously, for them playing on Sunday. Too young to have vet days as rookies. But this is going to be another test for Jonathan Gannon, Drew Petzing, and Nick Rallis. And unfortunately for Drew Petzing, there's going to be a whole hell of a lot of people in Cleveland who know his offense, because it's a branch off of the current head coach of the Cleveland Browns offense, Kevin Stefanski. So not only will the Cardinals be starting a 5th-round rookie in his first NFL, starting gig, first game, they're going to be potentially without their RB1 de facto until James Conner comes back, their wide receiver 2, etc. Going on the road, early morning slate. The weather's not going to be great. Against maybe the best defense in the NFL in 2023. It's not going to be ideal, but these are the perfect situations that this young coaching staff and this young roster needs to go through in an effort to prove that they can be competitive with anybody. And for this season, that's one of the biggest damn wins you could pluck from it. And they have for the majority of the season so far, with all the odds against them. Even though it hasn't really translated into wins. It has not translated into wins. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. A couple young guys are injured. What does it mean? How can you minimize the risk for Clayton Tune, etc., with that defense on the other side of the football? I'll discuss it next. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Again, go to Twitter at Clancy's Corner, at Locked On AZ Cards. Please go to the YouTube channel, subscribe, turn the notifications on so you can see, as I discuss a lot, my big, dumb face. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Prize Picks. So, Prize Picks is badass, okay? And they've added even another wrinkle here. So, with the basketball season here, you can do something a little special. So, Prize Picks traditionally is the most fun I've had, winning up to 25 times my money this football season. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less than their projected stats, and place your entry. With the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. So, for example, LeBron James plus Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combo of 3 points made and receptions. It's awesome. It adds another wrinkle to an already incredible app and platform. Okay, they're quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. My name is Alexander Clancy. I'm the host of this dang podcast since 2017, and I'm having the time of my life. I love it here. Thank you. I mean, this is all because of you. So truly, thank you for continuing to support. You will all be very much rewarded, as will I, this time next season. We are going to be looking at a vastly different organization. Hopefully, and I say hopefully led by Kyler Murray, not because I don't want to admit that this whole thing was wrong, because I don't think it is. I think in this offense, he is going to thrive. And we've seen a lot more of Kyler Murray since he was in, since he tore his ACL, especially with the new regime coming in. Lot more active on social media, which, I'm not a huge social media person. I'm on Twitter, for sports and stuff. I'm 40 now, so I've kind of moved off. It's not really a part of my day-to-day. I'll desk scroll like the rest of people, but it's not something that is, infectious in my day-to-day as it once was, aside from, Twitter, etc. And Kyler Murray using it as a tool to give a little bit more introspection into what once was a Fort Knox surrounding him and his life outside of football, I think has been incredibly beneficial for him without a whole lot of look at me energy. Little posts here and there, little stories here and there on Instagram or Twitter. It goes a long way, in my opinion, to give a little more introspection to who he is as a person, so he can potentially become a little bit more ingratiated into the fan base. For some who are like, oh, all he does is play video games and he's weird. Just because he's not loud doesn't mean he's weird. So we're seeing Kyler Murray grow up. And this is a perfect time for him to reintroduce himself into the Pro Bowler that he was before his injury. And I'm fascinated for that. But as we pivot here into week 9, how do you minimize risk against, namely, the defensive line of the Cleveland Browns? How do you build a cocoon around Clayton Tune in an effort to keep this game competitive? And it's not just the offensive line. Building a cocoon is, how does the defense help? How do the receivers help? How does the run game help? How does the offensive line, namely, help? But Clayton Tune is getting thrown out there against the Wolves. Myles Garrett is a bad, bad man. And it's how effortless he is with it that makes it difficult to defend. So the offensive line, and I've talked about this a lot, but it's important to remember that Jalti Froholt has played excellently, all things considered. Will Hernandez has been fine at right guard. Paris Johnson Jr. has played every snap this year, and while looking like a rookie at times, he's played above average right tackle, which as a rookie, I don't know if you can ask for more. TJ Humphries has taken a step back, unfortunately. I feel bad. I really wish that he was still playing at an elite level. I don't know if they can move him to play left guard. I don't know if he has the skill set to do it. I don't know what they're going to do at the end of the season. And then, the left guard position is still the weakest position the Cardinals have on the offensive line. Elijah Wilkerson's on IR, and it's just, and he wasn't great there either. So it's going to be difficult. And when I talked with Jeff Lloyd yesterday, if you haven't watched Locked On Crossover Thursday, go check that out, especially with the part that he discussed about Myles Garrett playing a little bit more inside than years past, where he does what he wants, and we kind of joked about it. But if he lines up over the guard, helmet to helmet, it is going to be a long day for Clayton Tune. And that's the greatest way the Arizona Cardinals can mitigate risk, is by figuring out, I don't know if they've got to run 13 personnel. It'll be difficult with Zach Ertz out. But you run heavy 12 personnel and you have somebody chipping on the left side to be able to give Clayton Tune an extra second, because wherever Myles Garrett is, he's obviously going to need to be double teamed. And a lot of times that doesn't matter. So 2 injuries that I mentioned, Michael Wilson and Mari DiMercado, both haven't practiced 2 days in a row. Not great. The Cardinals signed Tony Jones Jr., who has been, whirling dervish. He started in New Orleans, and he went back to New Orleans. He was on the Cardinals practice squad once this year, if not twice, and they re-signed him. So that's not a great sign for Mari DiMercado. It's going to be probably the Keontae Ingram show. Clayton Tune is not going to have a whole lot going for him on Sunday. Now, the way to mitigate it is going to be in the hands of Drew Petzing. Taking the air out of the ball, and this is a path to victory, and I will kind of straddle the fence here between this and then, our spot block and then the start of the next segment. The Cardinals need to win time of possession. If not, Deshaun Watson starting. That was reported by Mary Kay Cabot and Josina Anderson right before I recorded this podcast. And the Cardinals are going to need to keep that offense off the field as their best form of defense, even though that is going to be a monumentous task against the best defense in the NFL in 2023. With that, I will deep dive into that a little bit more. Next segment, path to victory for the Arizona Cardinals. Let's discuss next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by DoorDash. DoorDash. Got long days on Sunday. Do some work for my other job. Obviously watching the Cardinals in the morning. Ain't no way I'm leaving my place. And that's why DoorDash is the best. And I actually got Julio's to my favorite Mexican place here in Phoenix a couple days ago, because I talk about them every time I do this live read, because I'm like, I can't believe that DoorDash delivers from there. It's awesome. So food, you want wings, burgers, whatever, DoorDash has you covered for game day. All you got to do is plop down in front of the TV, open the app, and just scroll through the hundreds of restaurants that DoorDash will deliver you food from. And with this, before you actually place the order, get 50% off of the $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter code LOCKED23. You get 50% off up to $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter code LOCKED23. Subject to change. Terms apply. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Paths to victory. This is going to be a quadruple whammy for Drew Petzing. Okay. He's been great. Building out game plans, adjusting. I know the second half, the offense has kind of fallen off. It's difficult with an inferior quarterback to really make the adjustments necessary in an effort to stay competitive and win games. And it's not an excuse. It's a reason. And this is going to be so much more difficult because he's coming from the team that he's playing the team that he came from last season as a QB coach. They know him. So it's going to be difficult, but the number one path to victory for the Cardinals is taking the air out of the ball. There should be no hurry up, and there probably won't be. But with that, how do you take the air out of the ball? You have long, sustained drives. The majority of those drives with heavy run attacks. With Amari DeMarcado, who is the third-string running back, out, you have to pivot to another. It's going to be difficult. Clayton Tune can run the ball. Okay, you can run the same offense as you have with Josh Dobbs with Clayton Tune. He's a big guy. He's strong. He's got maybe more giddy up than Josh Dobbs does. So designed quarterback runs in a safe atmosphere, especially with the front of the Cleveland Browns, may be utilized. I mean, you don't want to put the kid on an island and have him get decapitated. But that's got to be effective. If this offense doesn't work nearly as well if the play action isn't set up properly, you're not going to want to get to 2nd 11, 2nd and 12, and then have to pretty much throw the ball on 2nd and 3rd down. You want to be able to get 2nd and 7, 2nd and 6. Any positive yardage on 1st down, especially with running the ball, will help the Cardinals stay active and competitive throughout this game. Now, if they can't, it could get ugly quickly, especially if Clayton Tune turns the ball over. And again, I'll use this as number 2 because I talk about this every Friday. And this is the last week I'm going to be harping on it as much. The Cardinals need to win their turnover battle and not turn the ball over. When Kyler Murray comes back week 10, I can retire the turnover battle jersey up in my condo, up on the wall, where it'll just be kind of like they can't turn the ball over. And they must, but it's like they're going to have to turn the ball over 2 or 3 times from Deshaun Watson and then not turn the ball over at all. Again, monumentous task and a very, very unfair ask, but that's where we are. It's just where we are. The Cardinals offense, and we'll see, here's the thing. Would I be shocked? And I just need to discuss this. When it was Clayton Tune or Colt McCoy, I was like, there's no upside in starting Colt McCoy. I was right. I mean, that's right. Because obviously they cut Colt McCoy. Josh Dobbs. If you tell me that Clayton Tune isn't as good as what we've seen the last couple of weeks from Josh Dobbs, I'll be shocked. What if Clayton Tune just unlocks, because Josh Dobbs, didn't unlock the vertical game. He unlocked the mid to deeper intermediate game with crossing patterns and things like that. He threw a couple absolute dimes over the last, 8 weeks. But Clayton Tune can huck it. So Rondale Moore, Hollywood Brown, we'll see if Michael Wilson's healthy after missing Wednesday and Thursday. But if you told me that he threw for 280 yards and 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions or something like that on Sunday, would I be shocked? No. His accuracy has been an issue. And that's the number one thing as a quarterback that you need to be good at. But we'll see. We have no idea. And let's just put this out to pasture. There is zero way that if the Cardinals win 38-10 and Clayton Tune throws for 5 touchdowns and 400 yards, even if he does that, ain't no way he's starting over Kyler Murray next week. So this will be a fun Matt Flynn or Patrick Mahomes' rookie year, the last game of the year game where it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to the future, this season at least, of Clayton Tune. But it'll be awesome to see if he's a capable backup for the future. We don't know how Kyler Murray's body's going to react in real game time speed. Should be fine. I mean, he's looked absolutely monstrous. He looks bulked up. But having a backup like Colt McCoy had been over the last couple seasons where he came in and won some meaningful games, we don't know. Who knows if they're going to play Kyler Murray 6 weeks, he plays fine, they win 2 games, and then, they lose the rest and they sit him in the last 2 games and Clayton Tune's got to play. We don't know. We have no idea what the what the path for the rest of the season is going to be. What I do know is the Cardinals have I almost said something dumb. They have 4 of the less difficult opponents to play in a row. Atlanta, Houston, the Rams, and the fourth one. Whatever the fourth one is. I'm stalling as we speak. Oh, the Steelers. So they play Falcons, Texans, and Rams the next 3 weeks. They play the Steelers after that, then the 49ers, Bears, Eagles, and Seahawks. So, if the season's lost in week 17 and week 18, you may see Clayton Tune again. Protect the investment for the Cardinals, but going into Sunday, take the air out of the ball, win the turnover battle, and really Deshaun Watson has shown he's healthy, he's going to play, took all the first team reps in practice on Friday. He'll turn the ball over. And we've seen flashes of this from this pass rush, usually very early in games. If you get Deshaun Watson on the run, he'll make some mistakes. And that's the third path to victory. I'm much more inclined to believe that this game is going to be 27-17 or 27-10, 27-13, something like that, than 40-3. I think the former is a much better chance than the latter. Jeff Lloyd even said himself, host of Locked On Browns, if you play ugly, that's where Cleveland does not play their best football. And I don't think the Cardinals have an option to not play ugly at this point until Kyler Murray comes back. James Conner reported as healthy. He just, by the rules of IR, he has to sit 4 games. He should be activated going into next week. The Arizona Cardinals 2.0 officially starts next week. Let's get through this week. Hopefully get some good takeaways. Garrett Williams, BJ Ojulari making some splash plays. Paris Johnson Jr. holding his own against Myles Garrett when he lines up against a rookie. Find some positive takeaways. Carry them over into next week. And then giddy the hell up into the future for this organization. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. I will talk to you on Monday.